They didn't drill me, they did something worse. They erased my name. One day I had a passport, the next day I didn't exist. I survived war, hunger, and betrayal, but surviving without an identity almost broke me. The most dangerous thing wasn't the enemy, it was the people who called me brother. My name used to be Arvin Kale. I whispered it quietly inside my head every time I woke up, like someone checking that something still existed. The name was simple, not famous, not important to anyone but me. And back then, I thought that was enough. I worked managing the flow of aid supplies at the Valmora border region, always labeled unstable in the news, but ordinary if you stayed long enough. Trucks came and went, containers were opened, sealed, stamped. I stood in the dust, recording numbers, matching schedules, making sure no route was wrong. My job wasn't about heroism, it was about order, about making sure things reached where they were supposed to go, on time, without drama. Every morning I woke before sunrise, not because of discipline, but because the generator always started before the birds. I brewed bitter coffee without sugar always, without sugar rand, stood for a moment at the barracks door. From that door to the wire fence were 17 steps. I counted them every day, not because I feared getting lost, but because the world felt more trustworthy when something didn't change. The first step always felt heavy. The 14th usually felt light. The 17th meant I was still in the same place as yesterday. I wasn't ambitious. I didn't dream of promotions or moving to the capital. I simply believed in systems in neatly filled forms, in official stamps that said approved. The state taught me that as long as my name was recorded, I was safe. And I believed that, without asking many questions. People called me a good man, because I didn't talk much, because I always double-checked data, because I rarely refused requests, as long as they were clearly written on paper. I didn't feel special. I felt useful, and that was more than enough for me. One afternoon, as the sun sank behind the watchtower, someone asked me to assist with a small operation. Just coordination, he said. No field work, no risk. He used words I had heard many times before. Stability, security, for the common good. I wasn't suspicious, because until then, those words had always meant the same thing, that the system knew what it was doing. I read the first page, then the last. The rest was just formality. I signed. When the ink touched the paper, I didn't feel like I was making a major decision. It felt like any other day. I didn't know that it would be the last day I wrote my name without hesitation. The operation collapsed within 3 hours, not slowly, not with warning. It fell apart like a structure miscalculated from the start. At first, everything felt normal. Too normal. The radio hummed steadily. Maps lay spread across the hood of a vehicle, and the operator's voice sounded calm, almost bored. I followed procedure. Logged the time, adjusted coordinates, maintained safe distances, as written in the instructions. Then the radio began to cut out. One word disappeared, then a sentence, until only long static remained, sounding like the breathing of someone dying. I changed frequencies. No response. The map in my hands, so neat, so full of safe lines, was outdated. Green points that should have been neutral turned red within hours. New crosses appeared that had never been printed on official documents. I realized something the system had never taught me. Maps can lag behind reality. The first gunshot sounded like something falling, short, sharp, too close to ignore. My body reacted faster than my mind. I ducked without knowing why. Dust exploded into the air, and the smell of hot metal filled my lungs. I waited for orders. None came. The evacuation truck was supposed to arrive 10 minutes after the green signal. 10 minutes became 20, then half an hour. Our engine kept running, as if waiting for something that would never come. In the middle of the chaos, I saw him, the man who had been our liaison. The one who introduced me to the operation with a calm smile. The one who called me brother, as if we shared the same past. Our eyes met, only briefly. He didn't shout, didn't give instructions. He only nodded slightly, like someone closing a door quietly so it wouldn't make a sound. Then he walked away, dissolving into a crowd moving in the opposite direction. At that moment, I wasn't angry, I wasn't afraid, I was confused. I still believed this was part of the plan, that the delay was a minor error that would be corrected. I stayed where I was, waiting for the system to work. And for the first time in my life, the system did not answer. I tried to cross back into Valmora 2 days later. 2 days of fragmented sleep in the belief that this was all just a coordination error. 2 days during which I still called myself a citizen. The border gate stood as it always had. The wire fence was unchanged. The flag still waved in the colors I'd known since childhood. Just seeing it brought relief. The border officer greeted me without expression. I handed over my passport with a movement ID done hundreds of times before, the movement of someone who didn't feel guilty. He stared at the screen longer than usual. His fingers paused above the keyboard. Then he typed my name again. Once, twice, 3 times. I stood straight, still certain this was a small mistake. He shook his head slowly. A movement barely visible, yet enough to hollow out my chest. Not registered. I laughed briefly, reflexively, the laugh of someone who believed a system could not forget. I was inside just yesterday, I said. Please check again. He looked at me longer this time, not with suspicion, but with the look of someone facing something he could not change. He called a colleague. They spoke quietly, as if afraid their words might sound too loud. My passport was taken from my hand, not snatched, taken politely, carried into a back room. I stood waiting, counting steps on the concrete floor without realizing it. 1, 2, 3. Then the smell came, faint, burning paper. I turned before my mind fully understood. A small flame flickered behind a half-open door. Pages that once carried my name turned into ash. I didn't scream, didn't move. I waited for someone to say this was wrong, that there had been a clerical error, that everything could be fixed tomorrow. The officer returned with empty hands. He didn't look at me this time. Please move away from the gate, he said softly. I wanted to explain, to show that I had worked for them, that I knew these routes, that I believed in this country. But the words felt strange in my mouth, as if I were defending something that had already decided to forget me. That same afternoon, my name was crossed out, my identification number erased, not with explosions, not with official announcements, just a few keystrokes and a small fire in a back room. In one afternoon, I changed from a citizen into an administrative error, and as I stood outside that gate, I realized something I had never considered before. The world can close its doors without explaining itself to you.